Welcome to BAM Fight Club, episode number 3. I'm Colby, this is Fernando, and we're previewing UFC Fight Night, Hermansson versus Strickland, which will be airing on Saturday, February 5th. Prelim starting at 1 p.m., main card at 4 p.m. Pacific. Alright, Fern. First up on the main card, we have Julian Rosa versus Steven Peterson. Go ahead and give me your analysis.
So I was watching a couple of these fights on the UFC Fight Pass, which is a great resource to have, and saw a couple of the undercard fights that they have. Rosa is 26-9, 11 KOs, TKOs, 12 subs, so he's pretty split on his victories. The way he's winning, got good diversity. His losses, 5 KO, TKO losses, 4 decision losses. He's really tall for the weight class. He's 6'1", and they're fighting, I believe, at 145 for this fight. So that I see how in the other fight, his ranginess has let him stay at a distance for, the head-on, the face-to-face. He has quite a bit of looping punches, especially uppercuts. He was able to tag with some jabs, and then as the guy was dipping his head, come with an uppercut. And against Landwehr, that was one of the fights I saw online. He had a straight right counter when he got kicked. So when most people get kicked, they're trying to catch it, trying to whatever. He was able to strike back, so that was a good offense. He was able to get going. And then against Jourdain, which was his last fight in September, he was able to get a Darce choke, Bravo choke from a transition from a takedown scramble. Those long arms helped him get a wraparound and cinch that in. He's got a 74.5-inch reach, which is pretty ridiculous for 145s. When you think of old school 145s, it's like Uriah Faber and all them, and you're like, this guy is just massive. For Peterson, who is interestingly enough my pick, he's well-rounded, has great striking, great submissions, clinch work. Even though his record doesn't show it, he's 19-8, 8 submission wins, 8 decision losses. If you watch his last fight against Chase Hooper, it was a unanimous decision win. He came in 2 pounds overweight, so I know people might think that had some kind of factor, but Chase Hooper is a pretty tall, lanky fighter, and he was able to go to him right away. Big punches. You see him come straight forward, and then he mixed up the heavy punches with leg kicks and body kicks, which then opened up the big shots up top. And then when they were up close, he was able to do elbows in the guard when he was on top, which I think surprised Chase because he's got the longer arms, so him staying inside of that reach really helped him do some damage. And then as Chase went for some submissions while they were on the ground, kind of going for some leg locks and stuff like that, Peterson was able to throw punches from his back, and then when seated, just kind of swiping at him. So for me, he's constantly punching from all transitions and all angles on the ground, and that's going to make for a good fight. They both have good groundwork. Arosa's super tall, but I think Peterson's going to, walk through him as he did his last opponent and just get in close and mix it up.
Yeah, and I remember that Peterson fight against Hooper. I was betting on Hooper, and I was very surprised how Peterson was able to, dodge and juke all of those leg locks and those different submissions that Hooper was throwing up. It seemed like he felt confident enough with his ground game, because Hooper's known for being a submissions specialist. That's all it seems that Hooper can do. He has pretty terrible striking, so he's going to go for submissions. And yeah, he was able to do some ground and pound, stay safe while Hooper was attempting those different submissions. That was a pretty impressive win to me for sure. So yeah, I can't wait to see this one. I think Peterson's gonna. I think he's going to do well. And what were the odds on this one? Peterson is a big underdog. So I wonder how much they're putting into the reach advantage, like you had mentioned. Rosa being such a tall fighter with a good reach. But I'm actually liking what I saw from Peterson last time. It seemed like he's pretty well-rounded. And I expect that those odds he might be a good underdog bet here on Peterson.
No, for sure.
Next up, we have a middleweight fight between Treecian Gore and Brian Battle. These are both guys who were coming off of the last season of The Ultimate Fighter. Gore ended up going out with an injury, but was left undefeated, so he's at 4-0. And Brian Battle has a record of 7-1. And I went back and just watched the last fights from both of these guys, and what I liked about Battle was, Battle seems like he's a pretty durable guy. He's fairly quick. He's not necessarily a specialist in any area, but he did pretty decently in grappling, pretty decently in striking. In the first round of his fight in The Ultimate Fighter, or the first half of the first round, he got beat up pretty bad and came back in that round and actually came on pretty strong, landing a bunch of strikes. So I like that he's durable. Obviously, these guys are younger. They've got a lot to learn, but I liked what I saw. His body makeup seems like it's good for striking and grappling as well. I thought he's just good all around. Gore, his last fight was against Newman in the Ultimate Fighter, and Gore is an explosive, more powerful fighter. He's got some really powerful leg kicks. He's got some pretty good striking. He really puts the pressure on of hunting the opponent down. I'm going to be curious how this is going to play out, because my thought is that Gore is going to try to put the pressure on, but if he hasn't learned since The Ultimate Fighter that he needs to throw some volume, especially if he's going to be going up against good competition where they're going to have better defense and things like that, you can't just every 15, 20, 30 seconds try to throw that knockout punch. He needs some more setups in it. So I didn't see a lot of setups with Gore, but he definitely has the power to knock a guy out for sure if he does land. So what I'm expecting is that hopefully Gore's done some work since his injury, and that he is going to do some setups. And I think if he just throws in some setups, throws in a jab before he throws in the head kick, or throws a body shot before throwing in some of these leg strikes, that he has a good chance to win. And let's see, the odds on this were pretty close. Gore is a slight favorite. Battle's a slight underdog. I do think the odds makers got this right. I do think Gore's slightly favored because of the style matchup.
Yeah, for sure. He's just got more well-rounded attack. And I don't know. At one point, you don't want to be known as the guy who can, get beat up and come back. Especially against better fighters. Yeah.
Yeah, especially going against a Gore, I think, is a much more powerful striker than in Battle's last fight. So, yeah, if you are a slow starter going against an explosive striker, it's very difficult to get to those first few minutes. So we'll see how that plays out. Next up, we have light heavyweight match between Sam Alvey and Brendan Allen. Sam Alvey's a big underdog here at plus 310. Brendan Allen coming in at a negative 400. How'd you break down this fight?
Interesting fight, because I think this is really a 50-50 for me, even though there's the odds. Allen, 17-5, 9 submissions. He's been training with Henry Hooft, which is a great kickboxer, world-renowned Dutch trainer. So his last couple fights, if you watch him online, has great mixing up his kicks, his punches, good attacks, high and low kicks. Most people just go for the calf kick. Not many people throw many head kicks, but he's one that was throwing one that seemed like one every minute. On the ground, great submission awareness. He was attacking the arms, the legs, and the neck. And in his last two fights, he was looking for leg submissions in both of those. In one of those, he was able to pull it off, get a straight ankle lock. And it just goes to show, he's dangerous on the ground and standing. I'm excited to watch his kickboxing, how it's improved. He's with the great camp. Sam Alvey, I would say if I had to pick somebody, I am picking him because I want to see him win. He hasn't won in a long time. 33-16, 11 decision wins, 11 decision losses. So that's 22 fights that, you know, he went the distance. So he's got the experience to take it the distance. For me, he's always exciting to watch. It's not a one-dimensional fight. His last fight, you know, he got the multiple eye pokes that resulted in, you know, it almost being a draw up until the last round. His opponent got 2 points deducted in round 3, despite, you know, leading and controlling the fight. And, you know, Sam was able to hang with him and make it, you know, a fight where people thought he even won at the end just due to the eye pokes. Consistent pressure and prefers to stand. Like, I like that. I like watching somebody who just goes out there. He's not the best striker. He's not the best wrestler. He doesn't go for many takedowns, but he has great takedown defense. You know, I had put that he's well-rounded with good takedowns and good takedown defense because I just see him able to shift when people are trying to take him down and do good trips and end up on top. His takedown defense, you know, he's able to take down, it was like, I think it was like 40-something percent, 46% takedown defense, which isn't bad. You know, as a bigger guy who isn't known for his wrestling, you know, he's able to keep it standing and again, keep it exciting. And he's my pick because I just want to see him win. Like, I think he hasn't won like in 11 fights or something like that.
Yeah, so. I'm with you there. I really like Sam Alvey, and yeah, he's had some really exciting fights. Like, they're really enjoyable to watch. So his last fight went to decision, like you said, with all those eye pokes. He got submitted in the second round before that, but before that he had 3 fights that went to decision, and I remember a few of them. And they're not easy fights. They're all wars. So yeah. It's kind of crazy that just by, I don't know, some random chance for as competitive as he's been, that he doesn't at least get like a bad decision in his favor or something. Because I think in his last 7 fights, he's got 6 losses and a draw. So I think the odd makers had it right. It's really hard for, you know, to pick a guy to win with that kind of a record. Right. But yeah, I really do like Sam Alvey. I like watching him fight, and I'm rooting for him. I'm not sure that I would bet any money on this one, though.
I will. It's the 11-loss comeback. Okay. Yeah, and the thing about him, you know, his nickname is Smiling Sam. He's always smiling regardless, and it'd be nice to see him smile when he won. Like, he's always...
Agreed. Okay, next up on the main card, we have a welterweight fight between Rakhmonov and Carlston Harris. And Rakhmonov is coming in at a negative 230 favorite. Harris coming in at a plus 190. And so I went back and watched the last fight for both of these guys. And the thing about Rakhmonov is he's undefeated. His MMA record is undefeated, so he's got that undefeated mindset, which I think is, you know, a huge factor going into a fight. Confidence, having, you know, your mind be in the right place. When you're undefeated, you feel invincible. It can be a bad thing. It can also be a good thing. I'd rather see a fighter going in there with too much confidence than not enough confidence. So I think that's definitely going to play in his favor. His last fight was against Prozeris, and he did a pretty decent job with his jab. I saw that he had a nice kind of double jab where he'll feint the first jab and then come and follow it up with an actual jab. He's a pretty tall guy. What I noticed is he didn't really use his height, like a lot of tall guys really don't use their height to the maximum potential when it comes to striking. And I saw that with him, although he did have a nice jab, he really didn't stay on the outside and pick the guy apart like you'd see with Adesanya. Although I did see he did use his height when it came to grappling defense. So in his last fight, he had his back up against the cage using a 50-50 position, and he was able to trip the guy and wind up on top, which was pretty impressive. He also, in another sequence, was in the clinch. He was able to pull in a whizzer defense and actually come out, take the guy down from the whizzer and stay on top. So he uses his height in grappling defense really well. I was really impressed with that. With Harris, his last fight was against Kasangane, and Kasangane is a very powerful striker, and I think he did pretty good in that fight. He definitely overextends in his punches. When you watch him throwing punches, he's throwing everything into those punches. So in this next fight, let's see if he's improved. Watch where his head position is relative to his feet and his hips, and maybe you'll notice what I noticed about how overextended this guy can get. He throws some good combos. He throws some 1-2s where he'll mix it up a little bit with the two being either a overhand right or a right hook. I think I even saw him throw an uppercut. So I like that he had a variety of striking combinations that he was throwing, and he did catch his opponent with some pretty good strikes. I'd say my prediction for this fight is that Rachmanov should use his feint, block, and then counter Harris, since Harris overextends so heavily. I feel like that's just a big vulnerability. I think that would be the prime strategy for Rachmanov to use in this next fight. And with the odds being at a negative 230 for Rachmanov, I agree with those odds. I think he's a pretty good favorite. I think there's multiple ways that he can beat Harris, and not at nearly as many ways that Harris can beat Rachmanov. And the ways that I would see Harris beating Rachmanov, even though Harris did end up with lots of good strikes in his last match, I would think that his advantage would be on the ground, and since Rachmanov has such good grappling defense, I think it's going to be hard for him to get a good advantage in this next fight.
Yeah, I think this will be one of those fights where I could see Rachmanov just keeping it standing, like just, tagging him, Harris trying to go for a takedown, him just pushing him back up and making him stand with him. I don't see wrestling being a primary means of somebody attacking another in this fight. I could see them trying to do it and then only utilizing wrestling when they're in trouble.
Next fight up is the middleweight fight between Soriano and Maximov. Soriano coming in at a negative 190 favorite against Maximov at a plus 160. How'd you break down this fight, friend?
This is going to be my pick for fight of the night. I think performance bonuses on this one. Soriano and Maximov both are coming off with a lot of hype. Soriano is 8-1. His last fight was a unanimous decision loss, where I thought it was closer than it was, but he, by the end was getting picked apart. He's got great KO, TKO finishes. Pretty brutal. Like, if you watch him win, just throws everything behind every punch. He's, Dana White Contender Series, has that experience. But watch when he throws his punches, because by round 2 or 3, he's exhausted, and every punch is just 100%. And that's it. It's with both hands, though, so it's fun to watch. And then going toe-to-toe, like, you just see him getting the better in the close quarters. In one of his recent victories against Dusko Todorovic, he was able to turn those looping punches, power punches, to just straight down the middle, and was able to finish them that way. So he has power, whether hooking or just straightforward. In his last fight against Brendan Allen, he wasn't afraid to get hit at all and was countering back. The thing was, he was getting tagged twice as often as he was landing, and by round 2, he was exhausted because he throws everything in every punch. Against Brendan Allen, he was still landing some heavy punches, at the end of round 3. So he's just a person that just has that, I say that one punch power, because he's just able to finish people and light them up. Maximov is undefeated. He's got balanced wins like KO, decision, submission. His last 2 were by decision, though. He last fought September 25th. Contender Series, LFA, King of the Cage experience, and he's a Diaz Army fighter. So, interestingly enough, you would think that he's just going to be a high-volume, high-punching kind of person. He's pretty well-rounded. He's got that crazy, like, Nate Diaz, guard that he keeps up high. He doesn't do it as, pronounced as Diaz does, but it's still pretty high. And with that, he's able to keep busy and keeps a high guard, and then comes around with a looping punch. And he showed that his last couple fights. Stays busy. A couple of times his last fight, he was going for a single leg takedown and just kept going at it, repeated, going for the ankle pick, going knee, and then going for double. Was just able to keep it switching. And then when he was taken down, he was able to push out of it and take the back pretty quickly. And, on his takedowns, he was able to, turn the hip, turn the corner pretty easily and just kind of have his way. And so I definitely am excited about this one. Maximov, even though he's got great wrestling, did land some great overhand rights in his last fights. I don't know if you got a chance to watch them or what you thought of the fights that you saw of them, but this is going to be crazy because Soriano just bombs all day and Maximov just, has good technique.
Yeah, and I did see that fight between Soriano and Brendan Allen last year. The thing I'm kind of curious about is that fight that Soriano had against Allen, that was his first loss. And I wonder how much of a curse it is to get 2 KO victories in the first round. Because like you said, going into that fight with Allen, if you're coming off of 2 first-round KOs, I've got to imagine you're in that mindset, hey, I can just, throw everything into the punch,
Yeah.
Take him out in the first round, and, it'll be a short night's work. And I wonder how much of that went into what happened with that fight against Brendan Allen. I'm also curious, how much he's learned, some guys, their first loss, they take it really bad, it breaks them. Other guys, they learn from that loss. I would hope that the thing that he learns is, how to come in with a little bit better strategy, to be able to have enough gas to go, three rounds when you're going against, higher level guys. So I don't really have a favorite pick. I feel like there's too many variables that could go either way. I feel like that's the most interesting part of the fight for me, is to see how does Soriano come off of his first loss of his career.
Definitely, and I think they are both going to go forward. Like you said, Soriano has just got to last past the first round. He's got to have a better strategy. Hopefully he's in condition, his conditioning's improved, or he's not throwing as many bombs, something. Includes a jab in there once or twice, because 100% power all the time. Like, when it works, it's great. Like, he finished one guy, like halfway through round 1 and won, with seconds left in round 1. Great, but then it went into rounds 2 and 3 against Allen, and big difference in his output.
Yeah, this should be a fun fight. Okay, and for our main event, we have Jack Hermansson versus Sean Strickland. Hermansson coming in at a plus 180 underdog, Strickland coming in at a negative 220 favorite. And I just want to start this one off by talking about Strickland. I don't know if you've been able to see a bunch of the media stuff that Strickland's been doing this past week, but I think it's so funny. This guy has gone like full evil villain role and like fully embraced it. The crazy stuff that he was saying leading up to this fight about how he loves violence. He sees his opponents as victims, and he loves making his opponents go unconscious, and just all this kind of, he seems to be having a lot of fun with it, but totally embracing the villain role. I don't know how much of the media day stuff you've been able to watch with Strickland. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, a little bit. I think he's just finding his niche, because he really doesn't stand out to me as like a person that you're like, he's going to go out there and put on a crazy fight. Like, he's in some decent fights, but I think the persona part is definitely going to help him, because everyone's talking about him at this point. Like, what happened. And there were a couple instances, like even in the last year, where he's been in training camps or issues with training partners and stuff that have come up. And I think at that point he just realized, like, him being nice, him being humble isn't going to work. Like, people are going to talk about him when they think he's somebody else. He's being rude, he's being disrespectful, or he's having these altercations. And since then, I've just heard nothing but stuff about altercations and opinions about hurting people and stuff like that. So I think it'll make for a good one. Hopefully it makes him aggressive and makes Hermansson, be on defense, on edge. And we'll see the mental game, I guess.
Yeah, and Strickland, I can't say when I've watched his fights that he's the most technical guy. I don't think in terms of striking or in terms of on the ground. He's definitely no slouch. But one thing I noticed about his fighting style, he definitely seems like a pressure style. He kind of reminds me of like Mike Perry, where he's kind of a brawler and he can definitely throw with some power, but the technique isn't quite there, and who knows what's going on with inside of that guy's head. So, but I do think he's definitely going to put the pressure on. I think he's trying to position himself to make a run, to get a title shot. I think that's the reason for the shift in the personality, in front of the media and all that. And if he racks up a few wins, it doesn't take too many wins when you're making a ruckus before you can get a title shot. And he hasn't. I don't think he's fought Usman yet. Has he fought Usman?
I don't think so.
Don't think so. Or wait, Usman's at 75. Adesanya's at 85.
Adesanya,
yeah. So what's that?
I said Adesanya, who's 185.
Yeah, right. I don't remember him fighting Adesanya. And with Hermansson, Hermansson's got I think definitely a better ground game. I watched Hermansson's last fight, and his stand-up definitely wasn't that impressive. He really got lit up by Shabaznian. I thought Shabaznian was going to win the last fight, but Hermansson has got heart. He's durable. He's a good grappler. He's got good conditioning, and he was able to get that win. And he also is really good, I think, with ground and pound. So if he does take a guy down, I notice he can definitely get into positions where he can generate a lot of force with his elbows and with his striking on the ground. So that's what I expect he'll probably try to do with Strickland. And we got what I think will be the striker versus grappler classic style matchup. What do you think on the technical side of things here?
Yeah, I like Hermansson. Watching his last couple fights against Martin Vettori, I hope he's able to get that back. It was unanimous decision that he lost. But he's just a tall fighter that's pretty well-rounded. I want to say it was like I first started taking notice, when he beat Ronaldo Jacare Souza. To me, who's just, a great grappler, was having great knockouts, great finishes standing up. And, he's got solid victories over people like that, like Talis Leites, another great grappler. So the fact that he was able to keep these grapplers standing and control that, to me, shows that you're going to have like solid, legit grappling or takedown or jiu-jitsu or something to control where you're going to take him. I think he'll be able to keep it standing and keep him on the edge. Unless he's going to be able to get hit by Strickland like Jared Cannonier hit him and, knock him out. But I don't see Strickland with that kind of power. I could see Strickland winning by decision, grinding it out for sure, because he's just that kind of guy that I feel like you have to stop or choke out to keep him from coming forward. Other than that, they can just take a good punch and dish it out. Strickland reminds me of Keith Jardine. Do you remember Keith Jardine?
Okay. Yeah.
The Dean Amin Keith Jardine. Same thing, that you were just like, man, he could just take a punch, and all it took was just, they throw one big one and catch people. And I see that. It's a good style for sure. And he's got the anger and ferocity. It'll be interesting to see how Hermansson responds, because he's just humble to himself, and there's not much trash talking from him, and it'll be interesting. I'm excited for the weigh-in, if anything, at this one, to see what else Strickland does.
Yeah, I hope he doesn't ruin it by doing something stupid, like happened a few months ago when, because when these guys are cutting weight, there's, depending on how much weight they're cutting, they're so frail. I can totally see Strickland now going out there just shoving Hermansson. He gets, whiplash and fight canceled or something ridiculous like that. So I definitely want to see some shit talking. I hope he doesn't end up ruining the fight with his new evil villain persona, because I'm really looking forward to this one.
Thanks again for joining us. This will be our third official fight card of the year and in total. And Colby Callahan and I are hopefully becoming more entertaining and providing a different kind of insight that you're used to, and making you laugh, providing you some honest feedback, and we'll see. Enjoy this great fight card.